What's up, Rich Life listeners? Today we are going to be welcoming Paul back from his safari trip. I'm so jealous. He's in that time of his life where his kids can travel with iPads, where mine's cannot. No traveling for us, so I live vicariously through Paul. But recently he went and did a Kenyan safari, and maybe update us how that went, Paul. And I know you had a couple takeaways that you wanted to kind of talk through a little bit on the podcast today.
Hey, good to see you again. Hello, everyone. We're just starting the new fall semester. We had a really great trip with our family to Kenya. We were there for a couple of weeks and did a safari trip. I got back and I thought about the trip and some takeaways. The reason we went to Kenya was because in the month of August, some of you might have heard of something called the Great Migration, where millions of wildebeests travel from the Serengeti to the Masai Mara. So this wide expanse of safari. They do this quote unquote migration every year, but in reality, they're just searching for pastures to graze. This phenomenon happens every year. And in the month of August, they generally migrate to the Kenyan side of the safari known as the Masai Mara. One thing I thought about when I was there was that when you're there, seeing not only the wildebeest, but all the other animals in nature, you notice that nature moves at its own pace. There's no rushing it. You can't force anything to happen. You can't force anyone to cross a river. Things just go at its own pace, and you have to go by how things flow. There's
And
no.
before, sorry to interrupt, but like the wildebeest, these are like the four-legged kind of skinny oxen that were
Yep.
running that killed Simba's father, Mufasa, in The Lion King. Is that what these are, or
They're the skinny. They look like skinny
gangly
ox.
little? They run in herds and stampede, apparently.
Yes, yes. When you think of herd mentality, this is the perfect example because it's comical watching a group of them. It's clear there's no leader, but if one goes one way, a bunch will follow and more will follow until they decide to stop. And they may decide in a few minutes or a few hours to go back the other way. So no real organization, but by and large, once they finish eating all the grass or the plants in an area, then they'll move on to the next area. But back to this idea that nature moves at its own pace, I think it's good to witness something like this because I think a lot of our listeners live in a world where we sometimes glorify urgency. I think it can be good to see a type of ecosystem where things move more slowly, but with a purpose. For me, it made me question how much of my own busyness is necessary and how much of it is actually noise. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is the nice thing about getting out of your routine, right? Vacations can do that. And sometimes the most weirdest things inspire different takeaways. Like whether you go to a very urban place and your takeaway is like, look at the chaos here. We live in chaos. I definitely think I take the approach of once a month, I take the day off and I do it a little bit different. I do the board meetings where we work on the business and on life as opposed to working in it. I haven't been on vacation in a long time, but I guess that's what they're supposed to do, right?
Another takeaway I had from this trip is that, as you can imagine, when you're in the safari, most of the time you don't have cell phone coverage, which is really nice. You don't have buzzing phones or text alerts going off, no constant notifications. You really get to be in the absence of distraction. You really get to be present. Just listening to sounds, whether it's the rustle of the grass or a group of hippos grunting in the distance.
So when you're there, you really only have Wi-Fi in the hotel.
Yeah, generally you have Wi-Fi at your camps. Depends on the camp. So some of our camps, the Wi-Fi signal was pretty spotty. I think one of them used Starlink as their main source of internet. Some places you do have a cell signal. If you bought like an international eSIM, for example, you can get some reception some places, but other places it's a dead zone. It was really nice to be forced to disconnect and be able to take in all the animals, different sounds, sights, smells. You realize that you can't capture it with pictures alone. You really have to be there to use your senses to be present. There's something priceless about that. So you get to be really there, like full-bodied, humbled by nature. You get to appreciate how rare and valuable that type of opportunity is, especially when our normal lives can be really busy. Another takeaway related to what I was talking about, how we really can't capture everything on a picture, is that not everything needs to be posted in this day and age of social media and Instagram. It's like a reminder that some of the most magical moments, that's almost like, too sacred to pull out your phone and start snapping away. For example, a group of lions or a bunch of cheetahs walking right by our Jeep, or at nighttime when an elephant just strolled past our tent and we heard this rustling noise and looked outside and we saw this elephant there. Stuff like that you can't capture. You just have to be there in the moment. Remember that, hey, cherish this moment. Don't worry about grabbing your phone to snap a picture or video so you can share it to your IG.
What do you do? Everybody has their different method of what they share on the internet. I definitely think more people aren't really doing things on Facebook and Instagram where it stays on there forever, right? They follow what the kids do and Snapchat it away or disappears after you take it. But what's your take on that whole thing?
Yeah, I know big thing now. I'm not the most tech savvy person, but just seeing what some other people do, I know something called like Instagram stories are big, where you post something and it's only up for 24 hours. And yeah, you can just share like little posts. You can share the pictures or videos of something interesting that happened. I did do some of that with lots of pictures.
It's for private consumption, right?
Yeah, and we'll make a photo album or two out of it just so that we can remember the trip and savor it. We did post some stuff for friends who were curious about what we were up to. There was also a lot of intentionality of trying to just be present. Another thing that I reflected on is just watching my kids light up at the sight of a cheetah or seeing a leopard, which apparently is pretty hard to spot because they tend to be pretty solitary animals. Or seeing a herd of giraffes, seeing my kids' eyes light up reminded me of how important it is to have that wonder and awe in the human experience. Just seeing their faces, the joy, the curiosity. And that was really cool. It reminded me that as adults, we need that too. We should always strive to fill our lives with some awe and curiosity and be able at times to look at things through a child's eyes.
That was one of those things that happens.
Yeah.
To me, it happens a lot. The moment has to be set up. Special sports moments, I think you happen. Team is down by 2 points and a few minutes left. It's a common, you can recreate that.
Yeah. I think having that can sometimes make us feel small in the best possible way. And it's good to have that. They've also done some research looking at this, and awe is actually really good for our neurobiology. It reduces inflammation, reduces stress. It's a really good thing in terms of resetting our perspective as to what's important in life.
Yeah, to me, it is a similar vibe because awe is like something is bigger than you and you're somewhat gracious that you're just not smashed.
Speaking of feeling small, leads to this next thing is I jotted down, which is that strength isn't always loud. We got to hear and feel a lion roar, quite something, because you actually feel it in your bones. If I'm another animal of prey, I would be freaking out if I felt this. But other things that we saw, getting to see a cheetah sit still for minutes, scanning the horizon for something to chase after, or just watching a herd of elephants. You just appreciate the power, but they're not necessarily making a big noise or doing something really grand. It just reminds you that stillness can be more commanding than noise. This translates over into the realms of like leadership, parenting, or self-development. Because oftentimes like true strength often shows up in quiet conviction in your beliefs, discipline, not necessarily aggression or big ostentatious moves. And then another thing that I think we've all experienced is that after every big experience, we get to return home, right? You come home to a big list of unread emails, you got laundry to do, you got things to schedule. Oftentimes there's this letdown after a big trip, right? Hopefully re-entry into your everyday life doesn't have to mean erasure. One thing that reminded me was don't let this experience of the safari, don't let the wisdom of the wild just fade into memory. What lessons did I get from this trip and what can I apply to my current life? What can I do to still honor these insights that I got from this trip?
What like some habit changes or things that you consciously change in your routine as opposed to just It's nice, but these things fade, right? You get back into your normal routine, your product of your environment. What are some things that you would like to keep?
I think a big one is presence. We didn't let our kids take their iPads on this trip, which was really difficult for them at first, but it ended up being really good for them. After the first week or so, after they got over that screen withdrawal, they seemed to get along a lot better. They were happy, they were joyful, they were also just more calm, even in the boring moments. We noticed that their relationship really improved. I can't say exactly why, but I have a feeling that not having access to screens was a really good thing for them. They got to be present. We got to be present with them too. We also made sure that the kids had their own tents. I definitely recommend that if you're able to do that.
Yeah, I never did one when I was a kid. I don't think we even went to that side of the continent. A lot of people with some money do these things. You can rough it, and these things can be extremely extravagant too. I realize a lot of people, I know some people who do a little bit of animal curating for some tax benefits, because I guess if they keep these types of animals on a wildlife preserve, they get some tax benefits. But I think it's for the similar effects. It's like playing with dinosaurs.
It was a lot different than I expected. When we got there, it really was like the Lion King or the movie Madagascar. You just have all these different animals intermixing with one another, right? So you have a group of elephants over here, a tower of giraffes not too far away. It's animals intermingling, right?
Yeah.
And then unbeknownst to them, there might be a group of lions in the grass, a couple 100 feet away.
As a guy who has never been to one of these things, what would you say go to a tour guide or would...
I think you pretty much have to because it's just not safe. You're not going to be able to go into the middle of the safari by yourself. That would be really dangerous. So I think you pretty much have to go with some sort of group or have it arranged by a travel agency. We were always in our own Jeep, just me and my family. We were never in the same vehicle with other people. We used Go to Africa, and they made the recommendations, where to go, where to stay. And yeah, I think it worked out really well. It's also a type of trip where you really do need a guide. You really do need to have someone who is knowledgeable, like who knows how to track animals, because like you and me, we would have no idea. They have years of experience in that type of terrain. So this is one instance where I think it would be really difficult to do on your own. You really do need a guide and someone you can rely on. The infrastructure of like where we went, which was like Kenya, was still very much a developing country. If the road is paved with asphalt, that's considered a really good road. The biggest road we were on was just one lane in either direction. And our guide told us this is a really good road. But that's like a local road for most of us living in the Western Hemisphere. Otherwise, most of the roads they're really bumpy. They're dirt. You're getting a free African massage. You're just bouncing up and down because it's full of potholes. So you get to see a different way of life. We also got a chance to visit the Samburu village. So you get to see how people live. To us, it looked like they were living in the Stone Ages. But then you also get to see that what they might be lacking in material wealth, they seem very happy and fulfilled in their own way. Yeah, and really good for anyone to see that. It was good for kids to see that too. I think it also made them a lot more grateful to see the privileges that they have and the type of environment that they get to come from.
So to kind of apply a framework, when you go on these trips, there's 4 different things you come back with. The first is silly, like souvenirs, right? But the next is like habit changing takeaways. The next is memories or awe. And then the last one is just an awareness. It didn't seem like, oh, now we're going to wake up at 5 o'clock and roar in the sky. There was no habit change or big thing, but it sounds like to me that your big takeaway was just an awareness, if anything.
Sometimes it's hard to put into words. I highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't done it. For most of us, it's so different from what we're used to. I certainly got more out of it than I expected because I've seen pictures of animals, I've seen pictures of safaris, and so I thought I knew what to expect. But actually being there in person, it was a lot more than what I expected.
Yeah.
For anyone who's thinking about it, I would say there's no time like the present. You never know what next year or the year after will bring. So don't take time for granted.
We will catch you guys next time.
All right, see you.